The whispering birth. A child who disappears at birth is never truly gone. Long ago, in the heart of Africa, nestled between thick forests and mountains that touched the sky, there was a village called Nori. It was a place where time seemed to move slower, where the air smelled of firewood and wildflowers, and the trees were so tall they whispered to the clouds. The people of Nori were simple but wise. They believed in balance, between the earth and sky, the living and the spirits, the seen and the unseen. They told stories under moonlight and left offerings for the ancestors beneath the baobab tree. At the center of the village lived Mama Naya, a healer with hands that could soothe fevers and hearts. She spoke to herbs like they were old friends, and when she sang, even stubborn goats stopped to listen. Her heart smelled of crushed leaves, oils, and something more, something sacred. Mama Naya had healed many, but there was one thing she could not heal, the emptiness in her own womb. For years, she and her husband Kojo, a calm and steady blacksmith, prayed for a child. Every full moon, she whispered their wish into the fire. Every rainstorm, she sang to the clouds. And every morning, she waited. Then came the eclipse. It was not an ordinary night. The moon turned a deep red, casting strange shadows across the village. The wind grew still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. And in that stillness, Mama Naya went into labor. The midwives came rushing with hot water and cloths. Drums were silenced. Fires dimmed. Even the crickets quieted. Kojo paced outside, hands trembling despite the heat. "Please," he whispered to the stars, "let this be the day." Inside, Mama Naya cried out. Sweat glistened on her skin. One midwife held her hand. Another wiped her brow. "It is time," one whispered. With a final push, the first child entered the world, a healthy baby boy, his cry sharp and strong. His skin glowed in the firelight, and he had a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on his left shoulder. His name, Mama Naya gasped, holding him close, is Kweku. But something was wrong. The midwives waited for the second cry. They had felt it, 2 heartbeats during the pregnancy. 2 souls. 2 children. But after Kweku was born, silence. No second cry. No baby. Just a strange gust of wind that rushed through the room, stirring the flames. Then, lying where the second baby should have been, was a single glowing feather, silver, soft, and warm to the touch. It pulsed with a quiet energy, like it was breathing. One of the midwives gasped. "By the ancestors." Another whispered, "She's been taken by the spirit realm." Mama Naya, still holding Kweku, looked around in confusion. "What do you mean? Where is my baby?" The eldest midwife, old Binta, stepped forward. Her face was carved with deep lines, and her eyes held stories no one dared ask about. "You gave birth to twins," Binta said. "But one child was not meant for this world." Mama Naya's grip on Kweku tightened. "No. That cannot be. Where is my child?" "She was taken," Binta said softly. "The spirits have claimed her. The feather is her sign." Tears rolled down Mama Naya's cheeks. "Taken? But why?" "We do not question the ancestors," Binta said. "Only listen." Kojo entered then, breathless. "What is it? What's happened?" The women looked at one another. Then Binta stepped forward and handed him the glowing feather. Kojo stared. "Is this our daughter?" Old Binta nodded. "Her spirit is not lost. But she lives beyond the veil now." Kojo took a deep breath and closed his eyes. "Then we must protect what we have. Kweku must grow strong. And the truth must stay hidden. The secret kept." From that day forward, the village was told only of Kweku, the strong baby boy born during the blood moon. The feather was hidden in Mama Naya's medicine basket, wrapped in goat skin and prayers. But the spirits had not left them alone. Strange things began to happen around Kweku. As a baby, he laughed at empty corners. As a toddler, he followed invisible footprints in the dust. Birds perched on his window each morning and sang songs no one else recognized. At night, Mama Naya sometimes heard him whisper in his sleep. "Come back. I miss you. Where did you go?" She would stroke his hair and pretend she didn't hear it. But every time the wind blew softly through the trees or the feather paused gently from its hiding place, Mama Naya knew. The twin was still near. Watching. Waiting. Whispering through the veil, the girl in the smoke. Some truths rise like smoke, soft, silent, but impossible to ignore. Years passed in the village of Nori, and little Kweku was no longer little. By the time he turned 16, he had become tall and sharp-eyed, with strong arms from fetching firewood and kind hands from helping his mother grind herbs. His laughter could brighten a cloudy day, and his silence could still a crowded room. But something inside him was restless. He often stared into the distance, as if listening to a sound no one else could hear. The villagers would sometimes see him stop mid-task, head tilted, eyes wide. "Kweku," they'd call. "Sorry," he'd blink, "I thought I heard someone." At night, his dreams returned again and again. And always the same. In the dream, a silver smoke would rise from the ground, curling like a ribbon around him. It shimmered like moonlight and whispered in a voice so soft it could have been wind. "Kweku. Do you know me? Please, remember." And in the smoke, a girl would appear, never clearly, never fully. Just the outline of her face, her long braids floating like mist, her eyes glowing gently. Each time he reached out to touch her, she would vanish. One morning, after waking with tears on his cheeks, Kweku could take it no more. He packed a small bag of dried fruit, water, and a calf stone his father had given him for protection, and set off to the sacred riverbanks of Omiai. The river was said to be older than the oldest elder, deeper than the tallest tree, and wiser than all the spirits combined. Many avoided it. Kweku walked for hours, passing the last of the cassava fields, then beyond the wild orange trees, until the air changed, thicker, cooler, quieter. He found the river glistening in the sun like a sheet of liquid glass. The water barely moved, as if it, too, was holding its breath. Kweku knelt beside it, dipped his hands in the water, and whispered, "If you are real, whoever you are, show me." That's when he heard it, a low rustling behind him. He turned, expecting maybe a bird or a monkey. What he saw was unlike anything in the waking world. Hovering just above the river was a spirit bird, large and radiant, with feathers the color of sunrise and eyes that were unmistakably human. It stared straight into Kweku's soul. And in that gaze, he felt a rush of emotions, sorrow, longing, love, and recognition. The bird opened its beak and released a small glowing object, which floated toward Kweku like a feather on the wind. It was another feather. Silver. Glowing. Warm. Just like the one hidden in Mama Naya's basket. His fingers trembled as he reached out. The moment he touched it, a gust of wind swept the river. Then, the voice came again. Only this time, it wasn't in a dream. It was here. Real. Soft, and scared. "Kweku, you remember me now, don't you?" Kweku gasped, stumbling back. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The silver feather hovered in the air, pulsing gently, as if alive. "You've always known," the voice said, echoing from within him. "In your bones. In your blood." "Where are you?" he cried out. "What are you?" The bird vanished into a swirl of smoke. And then, the river rippled, and reflected not just his face, but two. Side by side. One was his own. The other, a girl's face, soft and glowing, with the same crescent birthmark, only mirrored on her right shoulder. The confrontation. He ran all the way back to the village. Heart pounding. Mind racing. Soul shaking. He burst into his mother's hut, breathless. Mama. Mama Naya looked up from her herbs. Kweku. What's wrong? You need to tell me the truth. Her hands froze. About the silver feather, he said. About the girl in my dreams. About the bird by the river with her eyes. Her face paled. Kweku. You lied to me, he said, voice trembling. Did I have a sister? Mama Naya sat down slowly, as if her legs had forgotten how to hold her. She looked at him with a pain so old it cracked her voice. Yes, she whispered. Kweku stepped back, stunned. Why didn't you ever tell me? I wanted to, so many times, she said, tears forming. But how could I? You were just a child. And it was too much for your heart to bear. I've dreamed of her for years, he said. I thought I was cursed. Or mad. No, Mama Naya said, walking toward a small woven basket in the corner. She opened it and pulled out the glowing feather, still wrapped in the same cloth from 16 years ago. She was taken, she said, holding the feather as though it were glass. By the spirits. At birth. No one knows why. Only that she disappeared, and this, she placed the feather in his hand, was left behind. Kweku felt the warmth pulse through his fingers. What was her name? He asked quietly. Mama Naya smiled sadly. Amora. It means grace that never fades. The name struck him like thunder. Of course it was Amora. He had always felt it. She had whispered it in the smoke of his dreams, in the rustling of trees, in the hush of river winds. Kweku looked up. She's still out there. Mama Naya's lips parted to speak, but no words came. I saw her, he said, eyes fierce with sudden purpose. She's waiting for me. And before she could stop him, he stood, gripping the feather like a torch. I'm going to find her. The song of the forgotten twin. Between two words only one heartbeat can remain. The night after Kweku confronted Mama Naya tasted of rain that never fell. Thunder prowled along the horizon, keeping the village awake with low growls. Yet Kweku left his bed before first light, packed nothing but water, dried cassava, and the silver feather, and slipped into the jungle path that led away from Nori. He did not know where he was going. He only knew who he was looking for. 1. Footsteps of a stranger. By midday the trail narrowed to a ribbon of clay. Shadows turned thicker, cooler, and the forest rang with insect choirs. That was when Kweku met Sefiu. The traveler sat upon a fallen sick cotton tree, plucking a rough-hewn flute. His cloak was the deep red of river mud, and a twisted walking staff rested across his knees. He looked neither young nor old, his eyes bright as dawn but lined like cracked earth. When he saw Kweku, he ended his tune on a single, questioning note. The wind says you carry 2 heartbeats, boy, Sefiu said, voice light and teasing. But I see only one shadow. Where is the other? Kweku froze. Who are you? Merely a wanderer who listens better than most. The stranger tapped his ear. When the drums of the unseen beat, I follow. A coil of silver mist curled from Kweku's satchel, the feather reacting to something in Sefiu's presence. Kweku's resolve hardened. I seek the veil between worlds, the place where spirits walk beside the living. Can you lead me? Sefiu's eyes widened with amused respect. Few ask that question out loud. Will you help me? If I do, Sefiu warned, you may return, changed. Or you may not return at all. Kweku squared his shoulders. I must find my twin sister. For a long breath Sefiu studied the young man, as though weighing unspoken laws. Then he rose, staff in hand, and motioned down a hidden game trail. Very well, brother of 2. Let the forest judge your courage. 2. Lessons of the Threshold. For 3 days they traveled east, deeper than Kweku had ever gone. Sefiu shared little food but plenty of riddles, parables about rivers that flow upward and birds that sing after death. At night he taught Kweku to listen for the thin places where the living word phrase like one fabric. The veil is not a door, Sefiu said as they knelt before a smoky campfire. It is a song. Most ears are deaf to it. You must learn the melody. He placed the flute into Kweku's hands. Close your eyes. Breathe. Play what you feel, not what you know. Kweku had never played an instrument, yet as he blew into the reed a soft wavering note emerged, faltering, but true. Around them the night insects hushed. Leaves trembled without wind. A hush fell, as though the whole forest leaned closer. Sefiu smiled. The veil just listened back. 3. The door of smoke. On the fourth dawn they reached empty Orokani, a sheer column of black basalt that split the mist like a spear. Its base held a cavern mouth shaped like a yawning skull. Here, Sefiu stopped. Beyond lies the Kefongo, the binding path. Once inside, I cannot guide you. Only your bond with the lost twin can show the way. He handed Kweku a patch of powdered kola bark. For strength, he said. Then, more softly, and for farewell, should farewell be necessary. Kweku thanked him, heart pounding with gratitude and dread. With one last breath of mortal air he stepped into the cavern. Instant darkness swallowed him, yet the silver feather blazed, lighting a narrow tunnel of glimmering rock veins. The air smelled of river water and wood smoke. After several turns he reached a round chamber where the floor was polished like black glass. Kweku's reflection looked up at him, then blinked on its own. The surface rippled. Smoke rose, weaving a gate of swirling silver coils. A distant female voice hummed, soft, haunting, wordless. The song of the forgotten twin. Come, brother, follow me, follow the song. With a steadying breath Kweku stepped through the smoke. 4. The veil between worlds. He emerged onto a twilight plain that stretched forever, half dream, half memory. Familiar objects drifted past like ghosts, his father's hammer, the village baobab, Momanaya's grinding stone, fragments of life unmoored. Yet among the drifting visions glowed a second silver feather. It drifted farther each time he reached for it, luring him onward. Hours, or moments, blurred until he reached a crystal arch grown from living light. Inside the arch floated a small round island, ringed by water that reflected stars and nothing else. There, kneeling on the island, was Amora. Her right side shimmered with solid flesh. Dark skin, braided hair, the mirrored crescent birthmark. Her left half was translucent vapor that bled off into the air like candle smoke. Iron chains forged of starlight bound her wrist to the island's lone stone pillar. She lifted her head as he approached. Tears, one liquid, one mist, lined her cheeks. Kweku, she breathed, voice both echo and whisper. You found me. Kweku's throat tightened painfully. His twin. The face he'd only imagined. He knelt at the water's edge, desperate to cross, yet the moment his fingers touched the surface, ripples of white flame sizzled and forced him back. Amora shook her head. The water is the Mboli, the final distance. Spirits cannot cross to the living side, and the living cannot cross to me. Our souls are not on one string, brother. If we touch in your world, one knot must untie. Kweku clenched his fist. I'll untie myself if I must. You belong in the daylight. Tell me how. She lowered her gaze. There is a price. The veil keeps balance, one life for one life. If I return fully human, you must take my place here. Silence, save for the slow boom boom of their twin heartbeats. 5. Echoes of decision. Kweku wanted to shout no, but in his core he knew the truth had always pointed here. Every dream, every whisper, every pull of longing had brought him to this choice. I am willing, he said at last, voice even. But perhaps there is another way. Amora's eyes flickered with fragile hope. The binding chains feed on despair. If you can flood this place with love strong enough, they may weaken. But to do that, you must sing the song with me. Our voices joined in perfect harmony, spirit and flesh. Kweku remembered Sefiu's words, "The veil is a song." He drew out the traveler's flute, placed it to his lips, and began a melody born of cradle memories, Momonaya's lullabies, Kojo's envy rhythms, rain on thatch. Amora closed her eyes and sang. Her voice, pure, bright, aching, rose like sunrise. Kweku's flute wove under it, a river to her sky. The veil quivered, the island's pillar cracked. Chains rattled, flickered, loosened. But the molly water boiled, roaring in protest. Smoke hands reached from its depths, clawing at Kweku's ankles, demanding payment. Amora screamed, "Keep playing. The song will choose." Kweku played until breath shredded his lungs. The water surged up, enveloping him in cold fire. Pain lanced through him, life torn thread by thread. Yet he kept playing, pouring every childhood memory, every laugh, every tear, into the notes. With a final, shattering cry, Amora broke free. Light exploded, hurling Kweku backward into the water. 6. Between pause and silence. Darkness. No pain, no sound. Then, a heartbeat. But whose? He opened his eyes to find himself floating in warm starlit water. Across the molly, the island was empty, chains broken, pillar cracked in two. Amora was gone. Had she crossed? Was she alive? Kweku tried to rise, but invisible hands held him, gentle, not cruel. An ancient voice, neither male nor female, echoed from every star. Balance is kept. One knot untied, one knot remains. Kweku's chest felt strangely light, no lungs, no heartbeat. Yet he was not afraid. He peered down at his reflection and saw his form half mist, half solid. I have already begun to fade, he realized. The veil has claimed me. He thought of Mama Naya's smile, of Kojo's proud laughter, of a young woman, no, a twin, stepping into sunlight for the first time. His sacrifice felt suddenly small. 7. The promise in the feather. The water lifted him gently to the crystal arch, then set him down on a familiar cavern floor. There, waiting, was Sefiu. The traveler bowed his head. So, you chose. Kweku looked at his hands, moonlight shone through them. Is Amora safe? Walk with me, Sefiu said. They emerged beneath empty Orokani into dawn's first blush. Far below, the jungle canopy parted around a dirt trail, and along that trail ran Amora, solid and laughing, sun in her braids. Mama Naya and Kojo rushed to meet her, disbelief breaking into joyous tears. Kweku's throat tightened. A single tear slipped, became silver dust on the wind. Tell them I love them. They will feel it, Sefiu promised. He pressed the traveler's flute back into Kweku's ghostlight hands. The world between words needs guardians, voices who remember both sides. Will you serve? Kweku inhaled, though no air filled him, and nodded. If I may still watch over them. Sefiu smiled. Then let the song continue. Together they turned toward the rising sun that only half warmed Kweku's fading skin. And somewhere, carried on dawn's breeze to a village celebration below, a flute began to play, a melody of home, loss, and unbreakable twin hearts. 4. The trial of the ancestors. A spirit's light is measured by the shadows it can endure. 1. A foot in two worlds. Kweku no longer felt hunger or heat, yet the memory of both lingered like smoke inside him. His body, half silver mist, half solid boy, walked the twilight plains of the veil, while his mind drifted to Nori, to the faces of Momonaya and Kojo, to Amora laughing under real sun for the first time. Beside him strode Sefiu, staff tapping on invisible ground. Guardian work begins with proving you deserve the post, the traveler said. The ancestors have set 3 trials. Pass, and your sacrifice is sealed in honor. Fail, he shrugged, the veil swallows what remains of you. Kweku's hands, transparent at the fingertips, tightened on the flute that had carried him here. If this is the price for Amora's freedom, I'll pay it. Sefiu's smile was gentle. Strength of heart will be weighed first. A stone arch rose ahead, etched with glowing glyphs. Mist beyond it shone like storm clouds. Step through, Sefiu said, and listen for the drum of the ancestors. They will show you each trial in turn. I cannot follow. Kweku turned once more toward the distant shimmer of the living world, whispered a promise to his family, and crossed the threshold. Trial 1, the shield of strength. The mist parted, revealing a vast dust plain lit by a blood-red moon. In the center burned a small blue flame atop a clay pedestal. Boom boom, boom boom, a heartbeat drum echoed across the plain. A bone-deep voice roared out. Guard the lifelight until dawn. Let no shadow snuff it. From the surrounding dark, shadow beasts unfurled, panthers formed of night, eyes like coal embers. Their growls rattled the dust. Kweku's first instinct was to run, but the flame wavered, and he remembered Amora's smile. He planted his feet before the pedestal. He had no spear, no shield, only his flute. Music brought me here, he thought. Let it defend me. He blew a note, clear, bright, rising. The first panther lunged, the note turned into a shrill whistle that struck the beast midair. Light flared, and the shadow dissolved like smoke in sunlight. More came. Kweku spun, weaving melody into walls of sound, low notes like thunder, high notes like lightning. Each beast that touched the music burst apart. Minutes. Hours. Time lost meaning. His half-spirit arms ached, yet he played on. When his breath failed, he used his voice, chanting Mama Naya's healing songs, Kojo's forging chants. At last the red moon sank, white dawn spilled onto the dust plain. The blue flame flared tall, untouched. The heartbeat drum sounded once, boom, a tone of approval. Mist swallowed the plain, and Kweku staggered forward, flute shaking in his grasp. 3 whispers in the village. Far away, beneath real sunrise, Nuri hummed with unease. Amora awoke from troubled sleep to villagers gathering outside Mama Naya's hut. They spoke in low tones that pricked like thorns. She came from nowhere. I saw her eyes glow at dusk. Maybe the healer deals in dark spirits. Mama Naya stepped out, spine straight, voice stern. My daughter is no curse. She is flesh and hope. An elder spat into the dust. Hope doesn't appear out of thin air. Where is the boy Kweku? Gone the same night this stranger arrived. Amora's heart clenched. Brother, Harry. In the crowd stood a hooded wanderer, Sefiu, listening without comment. When eyes met his, Amora felt a pulse of quiet reassurance, as if he carried news from somewhere beyond words. For trial 2, the riddle of wisdom. Kweku emerged into a stone courtyard open to star-filled sky. In the center rested 3 clay jars. An obsidian mask floated above them, speaking in 1,000 overlapping voices. Choose the jar that holds truth. Smash the 2 that hold illusion. You may ask 1 question to each jar. Kweku approached the first jar, a river carved around its neck. What is water? He asked. Water is weightless stone, the jar answered. Riddles speak, Kweku noted. He asked the second jar, painted with flames, the same question. Water is the mirror of fire. The third jar bore no markings, only a single crack near its rim. He asked again. Water, it replied softly, is the cradle of every first breath. Kweku closed his eyes. As a healer's son, he knew birth began in fluid. He raised the pedestal hammer provided by the mask and smashed the first jar, sand poured out, dry as bone. Illusion. He smashed the second, sparks leapt, then fizzled into ash. Illusion. The cracked jar he lifted gently. Inside shimmered clear water that smelled of spring rain. Truth. The mask laughed, warm, delighted. Wisdom honors humility. The cracked vessel held the answer, for true knowledge wears its scars. The courtyard dissolved into mist. 5 Storm over Nori. Clouds gathered above the village long before rainy season should return. Animals brayed, uneasy. The storyteller, Old Binta, told anyone who would listen. Spirits chorus above us. We must cleanse the land. Some shouted that the mystery girl brought the storm. Others remembered Momanaya's years of faithful healing and argued back. Tension knotted the air. That night Amora knelt by the hearth as her mother ground herbs. They fear what they don't understand, Momanaya whispered. The final trial draws near. I feel it like thorns under my skin. Amora clasped the glowing feather she still wore on a leather cord. If Kweku succeeds, the storm will pass. And if he fails, Momanaya's voice cracked. Amora hugged her, though worry clawed her ribs. Outside, Sefiu's silhouette stood at the fence, cane resting over one shoulder. Lightning revealed his face, calm, watchful, sad. 6 Trial 3, The Weighing of Loyalty. A final curtain of mist lifted, Kweku found himself in a circle of spirit elders. Tall, radiant figures cloaked in constellations. At their center hung a scale, 1 golden pan, 1 iron pan. Beneath each lay a glowing orb, 1 pulsed with Amora's laughter, 1 with Momanaya's lullaby voice. The eldest ancestor spoke like wind over dry grass. 2 loves pull your heart. Place the greater upon the scale. The lesser will fade forever from memory, yours and theirs. Kweku's breath caught. Erase one bond to keep the other. Impossible. He stepped forward, palms sweating spectral mist. Visions flickered, Amora smiling under mango blossoms, Momanaya mending a goat-chewed sandal, Kojo ruffling his hair, villagers dancing on festival night. Tears, silver sparks, fell. I cannot choose. Each love feeds the other. Without one, the other withers. The ancestors watched, silent. Kweku remembered the cracked jar's lesson, truth in brokenness. He knelt, lifted neither orb, but his own half-spirit heart. Then take me, he whispered, placing a glowing shard of his essence on the iron pan. Let every love I carry remain whole, even if my memory is what fades. The scale glowed fierce white. Both orbs floated up, merging into one brilliant sphere. A chorus of ancestors sang, part joy, part sorrow. Sacrifice without resentment is the purest loyalty. Light engulfed Kweku. He braced for pain, but felt only warmth, like dawn upon closed eyelids. When the blaze dimmed, the circle was gone. He stood again before Sefiu beneath empty Orokoni sky. 7 A warning and a choice. Sefiu bowed. The trials are complete. The ancestors accept you as guardian, watcher between worlds. Kweku's outline was fainter now, nearly all mist. What remains of me in the living world? Your name, your story, and the love you refuse to surrender. But one task stands, return to Nori and silence the fear that threatens your sister. After that, the veil will claim you entirely. Kweku nodded. One last walk under real stars, worth every cost. Sefiu raised his staff, a doorway of swirling leaves opened. Go swiftly. Dawn approaches. 8 thunder at the gate. In Dari, villagers marched toward Momanaya's compound carrying torches. Lightning split the sky, wind howled. Old Binta stood arrayed in ceremonial red, urging calm, but anger had found easy purchase. We want answers, a farmer cried. Where is Kweku? What spell took him? Momanaya stepped forward, arms spread. My son walked into the spirit realm to save his sister from a fate none of you can imagine. If you doubt my word, let the spirits speak themselves. A torchbearer scoffed. Convenient tales. Before chaos erupted, a gust blew every flame sideways, and from that wind a silver blue figure emerged, flute in hand. Gasps filled the night. Kweku, Mama Naya whispered. His form flickered, yet eyes shone bright with belonging. He raised the flute. The first note rolled out, soft rain, steady heart. Storm clouds stilled overhead. Torches dimmed without going out, anger eased into quiet wonder. No words were needed. The music painted everything, the twin bat, the veil, Amora's rescue, the trials, the price yet unpaid. Villagers felt it as if leaving sins behind their eyelids, truth impossible to deny. When the final tone faded, Kweku lowered the flute. The people knelt, some in sorrow, some in awe, all in respect. Mama Naya reached to touch him, her hand passed through like mist. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her smile was proud. My son, my healer of words. Amora stepped close, feather glinting. You kept every promise. I borrowed your courage, Kweku said, voice an echo of wind through leaves. Now live boldly, for both of us. 9 The last embrace of dawn. First light touched the village roofs. At its edge, the veil shimmered open like a curtain of dew. Sefiu waited there, leaning on his staff. Kweku turned to Mama Naya and Kojo, to Amora and the villagers standing in new silence. He bowed deeply, the way a son honors parents, a brother honors siblings, a guardian honors those he guards. Then he walked toward Sefiu. With each step, more body became light. At the threshold he paused, looked back once more, and placed the flute on the ground, solid, real, a gift. A single sunbeam struck the silver instrument, it rang with a tiny chime, like laughter set free. Kweku smiled, mouth, remember. The veil folded around him, and he was gone. 10 new roots, new sky. The storm clouds dispersed as though someone had blown out a candle. Birds returned to their dawn chorus, cassava leaves lifted, catching the sun. Amora picked up the flute and felt its smooth weight, warm, alive. She glanced at Sefiu, but the traveler was already vanishing down the road, humming the trial's melody. Mama Naya placed a palm over her daughters and spoke softly. Guard this song, child. It is the bridge between yesterday's sorrow and tomorrow's grace. And so life began again in Dori, but never as before. Each festival night, when fireflies rose, Amora would play the flute, and a hush would fall, the hush of a million unseen wings gathered above a village forever watched by a boy who loved too fiercely to keep even one love small, the return of the light. When one torch is lifted to the sky, its flame never truly leaves the earth. The gathering sky. No calendar in Dori marked the night of the celestial convergence. It announced itself instead. Cicadas stopped singing, air shimmered like breath on cold glass, the crescent moon slid beside a wandering star so bright it painted silver veins on every leaf. Villagers felt the hush first in their bones, then in their hearts. Children forgot mischief, elders forgot old quarrels. All eyes turned east, toward empty Orokani, where dawn would soon negotiate with darkness. Mama Naya stood outside her hut, fingers laced with kojos. A woven mat lay before them, ready to receive offerings. Millet, palm wine, and the silver flute Kweku had left. Every note trapped inside that instrument seemed to vibrate, eager to be free. Beside the healer knelt Amora, now fully human, warmly solid. But a faint starlight still glowed under her skin, a reminder of roads she once walked beyond breath. She clutched the feather pendant and whispered, "Brother, I am here." Overhead, thunder rumbled without clouds. To the last bridge. In the veil, Kweku moved like thought, weightless, bright, no longer haunted by the ache of lungs or the pull of gravity. Yet his spirit still carried the rhythm of a heartbeat, drumming softly against eternity. He walked a luminous path that led to a ring of ancestors, grandmothers wreathed in firelight, hunters carved of midnight, infants glowing pure as sunrise. At the center stood Sefiu, staff planted like a living root, eyes reflecting every dawn he'd ever seen. Guardian, Sefiu greeted, no longer playful wanderer but herald of old law. The veil is ready to crown its sentinel. Complete the rite of joining, and the village below will never walk alone. Kweku bowed. What must I do? Sefiu lifted a shard of black glass, thin as a reed, sharp as goodbye. Cut the final thread binding you to earth. Sacrifice the echo of your name so your song may become wind, rain, and roaring river all at once. Kweku's hands trembled, half-missed. He thought of syllables spoken by a mother at dawn, Kwiku, born on Wednesday, bearer of hope. To give away a name was to step into forever without a label. He touched the blade to his chest. Light blade, silver blue, forming a glowing script that floated up and shattered like fireflies. In that instant, the flute on the mat in Nori rang clear, though no lips touched it, announcing the severing. The ancestors extended their arms. A torrent of starlight poured through Kweku, reshaping him into a figure of braided flame and flowing water, guardian of Nori, half constellation, half river song. 3 Storm of doubt. Below, the sudden flute note startled the gathering crowd. Some fell to their knees, but a few, led by the grizzled farmer Boko, raised fearful cries. Witchery, he shouted. First the boy vanished, then storms came. Now his ghost blows on pipes. A murmur of worry rippled through the people. Faced with marvels they could not name, fear offered the easiest vocabulary. Mama Naya stepped forward, staff glowing faint green. The world is wider than your fear, Boko. Tonight the heavens settle debts none of us could pay. Boko spat. Pretty words, empty as drums with no skin. Lightning forked across the sky, striking a baobab outside the village. Sparks rained, illuminating every uncertain face. Amora felt her brother's pulse rising somewhere far and near. She placed the flute to her lips, though she had never played, and let breath become courage. A single note glided forth, steady, gentle. The air calmed. The charred baobab stopped burning, leaves unfurling brand new at scorched tips. Gasps replaced mutters. Even Boko's anger cooled to weary awe. Amora lowered the flute. He is coming, she said. For the gate of dawn. In the veil, Sefiu lifted his staff, the world cracked like an eggshell. Through the opening spilled the first red gold ray of true dawn, carving a doorway of molten light. Step across, Sefiu instructed. But remember, no longer Kweku. The earth will give you another name when it is ready. The guardian nodded, then paused. And you, Sefiu? The traveler smiled, lines at his eyes folding into new constellations. I was keeper of this staff long before your river learned to murmur. I follow winds, I leave paths. We meet again when stories need corners rounded. They clasped forearms, mist to flesh, past to future, then parted. The guardian entered the doorway. 5 A sky set aflame. Roosters had barely begun their morning boast when the heavens over Nori blazed like a second sunrise. A spiraling column of light rose from empty Orokani, spreading wings across the horizon, wings made of shimmering dust, thunderhead edges, and a low hum felt more than heard. Every soul in the village looked up. From the radiant crown descended a figure woven of dawn itself. Eyes like calm rivers. Hair like swirling nebulae. A cloak of half-remembered lullabies. No feet touched the ground, yet Earth's pulse matched each beat of his invisible steps. The crowd parted, terror melting into wordless reverence. Amora walked forward, tears glowing on her cheeks. The being raised a hand, translucent, warm, and wind circled them in a cocoon of quiet. She whispered, "Brother." A smile flickered, tender, as if across infinite distance. Though his mouth spoke no sound, a chorus of familiar voices swept over the village. I am river in drought, shade in scorch, drum in silence. I guard this soil, these dreams. I love you, Amora. Her heart heard it. So did every mother missing a child, every child missing a father, every lonely soul needing a reason to trust sunrise again. The guardian lifted both arms, and from the sky fell 3 gifts. Rain, Gentle, warm, fragrant with wild herbs, soaking cracked fields, feeding cassava roots. Seeds of light, tiny sparks that landed on sick animals and wilting mango trees, coaxing them toward sudden vigor. A hush of peace, an invisible blanket that settled arguments, healed grudges, and softened sorrow hidden in marrow. When the gifts were delivered, the guardian's glow dimmed to a faint halo. He drifted upward, edges unraveling into the tapestry of sky. Children reached up waving, elders bowed heads, Boko fell to his knees, tears carving lines in dusty cheeks. 6 new morning, new names. The light faded, leaving behind an ordinary blue sky and the smell of wet earth. But nothing was ordinary now. Villagers gathered around Momanaya and Kojo. They clasped Amora's hands, offering baskets of fruit, strings of shells, small reparation for large doubt. Old Binta declared, "From this son to the last son our bones will ever see, we shall call him Odokora, love that watches." The name swelled through the crowd, echoing against huts, threading into banana leaves, carried away by wind to mountain ravines. Amora held the flute. Its silver surface now bore a faint inscription, Odokora. She pressed it to her forehead. "Thank you, guardian." 7 The healer's dawn. Time passed fast and slow, like water respecting stones. Crops flourished, tempers cooled, babies slept soundly. Amora apprenticed under Momanaya, learning tinctures and bone setting by day, studying star patterns by night. Yet her greatest teacher was the feather pendant. When a patient's illness confused her, the feather glowed warmer near the herb or chant she needed. Many whispered that Odokora guided her hand. On the first anniversary of the convergence, the village held a festival under lanterns. Drums thundered like heartbeats reunited. Amora stood before the bonfire, foot poised. She played a melody both joyous and wistful, a song of twins, of rivers parted and joined, of sacrifices that become seeds. During the final note a cool breeze swept through, sparks whirled upward, arranging themselves into a fleeting silhouette of broad shoulders, peaceful eyes. Children pointed, laughing, elders nodded, unsurprised. Amora smiled into the dark. She needed no voice to hear. "I am here. I always will be." 8 echoes for tomorrow. Years bent into decades. Stories slid from tongue to tongue, sometimes changing sandals but never losing their footprints. Travelers who crossed Ndoria's valley spoke of air tasting sweeter, of dreams growing clearer, of feeling washed, but kindly, by moonlit eyes. They carried the legend onward. There is a village protected by a guardian made of dawn. Its healer sings storms into gardens, and her flute can summon peace. Some dismissed the tale, others trekked weeks to test it. None left unchanged. 9 The feather and the flame. One twilight, Amora, hair now streaked with silver, hands lined by years of service, found the feather dulling, its glow ebbing like a tide. Panic flickered, but then a calm settled over her, gentle and vast. She walked beyond the baobab to a quiet field. There she knelt in last light, planting the feather point down in fertile soil. She whispered, "Rest, brother. Your watch is long." The feather sank, became root, became seed. In moments a sapling unfurled, slender trunk, leaves shimmering with faint starlight. A tree that would outlive memory, offering shade thick as forgiveness. Wine through its branches sounded suspiciously like flute notes. Amora laughed, tears bright. Still teasing. 10 lights without end. On the night Amora grew tired enough to lay healing bowls aside for the final time, she dreamed of the veil, crystal arch, gentle river. On the far bank waited a glowing figure, hand outstretched, patient. She crossed, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes the twins stood toe to toe, both whole. They did not need to speak, their reunion was older than speech. Behind them the veil rippled, revealing fields of every soul who had ever loved well, Momanaya and Kojo smiling side by side, Sefu leaning on his ageless staff, villagers whose names had long since rolled off mortal tongues. And above all, a sky blooming with new constellations, each a story, each a sacrifice, each a promise kept. Epilogue, the song goes on. Back in Dori, children still gather around the starlight tree. They press ears to its back and swear they hear music. Elders nod knowingly. They tell the children. Once, a brother traded his breath so his sister could breathe. He became the dawn that wakes us, she became the hands that heal us. Their love is the light you feel when you're afraid of the dark. Then the elders points to the morning sky, where a faint silver ribbon always hovers, even at noon. That, they say, is Odokora checking his village gates. And every festival night, when drums quiet and embers glow low, the breeze breathes a single flute note, steady, gentle, reminding Nori that some flames never go out. They simply rise higher, warming many from above. The end.